Welcome to this deep dive from Safety One Source. We're your partners in, well, building safer workplaces.
That's the goal.
And if you're out there, maybe a safety professional, perhaps a risk manager, or honestly, just anyone aiming to really boost their safety know-how, you are definitely in the right place.
Absolutely.
Today, we're really getting into some critical stuff. Ladders, stairways, and those, sometimes confusing confined spaces.
Yeah, specifically focusing on getting in and out safely, access and egress.
Exactly. We've got some key OSHA documents, some interpretations we've looked through.
Right, we've done the digging to try and bring some practical clarity. We want to go beyond just listing rules.
Help understand the why behind them, the nuances.
That's it, things that make a real difference in keeping people safe on the job.
Okay, so first up, let's unpack this interesting question OSHA got about a walk-through railing system. It's for portable ladders.
Mm-hmm. The idea is to make it safer when you're stepping off the ladder onto, say, a roof or a platform.
Right, so American Innovations Corporation, they had this system.
Yeah, and they wanted to know if it complied. Picture this. The ladder's top rung is like level with the landing or maybe just a tiny bit below.
Okay.
Then their walk-through add-on bolts onto the side rails and extends up to give you that handhold, that railing height.
They're required 3 feet.
Exactly, the 3 feet above the landing. So their question was, does this setup meet the construction standard? 1926.1053B1 specifically.
And that's the rule most of us know. The ladder side rails need to stick up past where you're stepping off. So what was OSHA's take?
Well, first, the standard disclaimer. OSHA doesn't endorse specific products. They can't, really.
Right. Too many variables on site.
Exactly. Misuse, conditions, all that. But they did offer guidance on interpreting the rule. And the key thing was, they said if an extension is securely attached to the ladder.
Securely attached. Okay.
Then it's considered part of the ladder for meeting that 3-foot requirement.
So it counts.
It counts. So if that walk-through system is properly bolted on, secure, and gives you the full 3 feet above the landing, OSHA indicated, yeah, that would satisfy the standard. The construction standard, mind you.
That's a really important clarification, especially with new safety gear coming out. It's not just the base ladder anymore.
Precisely. But there's a bit more to it.
I figured.
OSHA was very clear. This response was only about the construction rules, Part 1926.
Not general industry.
Right. The company's original letter mentioned general industry too, Part 1910. OSHA's construction folks basically said, not our area, and forwarded that part to the general industry enforcement team. So, separate issue there.
Okay, so this guidance is specifically for construction tasks.
Correct. And it's definitely not a blank check to just start bolting anything onto a ladder.
Good point, yeah.
OSHA stressed that the entire setup ladder plus the secure extension still has to meet all of the other rules in Subpart X.
Which covers all things stairways and ladders in construction.
Yep. Proper ladder choice for the job, load rating, inspecting it before you use it, how you climb it, all that still applies.
So for safety pros listening, it's not just about buying the add-on. You need procedures, checks.
Absolutely. Documented checks that it's securely attached each time, just like OSHA emphasized.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, let's step off that ladder topic now and move on to something more fundamental. Stairways. General OSHA requirements.
Right. This applies pretty much everywhere, across industries. We're talking standard 1910.25 now.
General industry.
Yep. It covers most stairways, though not like stairs on mobile scaffolds or ones built into big machinery. Those have their own rules sometimes.
Gotcha. So for typical workplace stairs, what are the big must-know rules for employers?
Okay, several key things. First, handrails, stair rails, guardrails, they all need to meet the specs in a different section, 1910.28. That covers dimensions, strength, etc.
Right, the details on the rails themselves.
Then, headroom. Super important. Minimum vertical clearance is 6 feet, 8 inches.
6'8".
Measured from the leading edge of the tread. Basically, enough room so most people don't bang their heads.
Seems reasonable.
And uniformity. This is a big one for trips and falls. Riser heights, that's the vertical part. And tread depths, where you step, have to be the same for the whole flight of stairs, including between landings.
No surprise steps.
Exactly. Those little variations can really catch you off guard.
Definitely. What about the landings themselves, the platforms at the top or bottom?
They have rules too. Minimum width has to be at least the width of the stairs.
Makes sense.
And they need to be at least 30 inches deep in the direction you're walking.
Okay, 30 inches deep.
Now, there's a little wrinkle if a door or gate opens directly onto the stairway platform.
Oh.
Yeah, The required depth changes depending on when it was installed. If it was before January 17, 2017, you need at least 20 inches of usable platform depth beyond the door swing.
20 inches.
But for installations on or after that date, it's 22 inches. A bit more space.
Huh. That's a detail you could easily miss, especially in older buildings.
Very easily. And then there's strength, load capacity.
How strong do they need to be?
Each stair needs to support at least 5 times the expected live load.
5 times? Wow.
Yeah, but never less than a concentrated load of 1,000 pounds, so they need to be pretty robust.
Handles people, equipment being moved.
Right, and OSHA's preference is clear. Use standard stairs for regular travel between levels.
Standard stairs.
Things like spiral stairs, ship stairs, or those alternating tread ones, they're only okay if a standard stair just isn't feasible. Space constraints, usually.
And even then?
Even then, you must follow the manufacturer's instructions for installation and use, strictly.
Okay, so what makes a stair standard in OSHA's eyes? What are the parameters?
Good question. Standard stairs have specific geometry. The angle of the stairway has to be between 30 and 50 degrees from the horizontal.
30 to 50 degrees.
Maximum riser height is 9.5 inches.
Okay.
Minimum tread depth is also 9.5 inches.
9.5 rise, 9.5 tread, minimums and maximums.
Well, max rise, min tread,
Mm-hmm.
and the clear width between handrails or any barriers has to be at least 22 inches.
22 inches clear width. Got it. Now, you mentioned that date again, January 17th, 2017. Is there some flexibility for older stairs?
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
If you have standard stairs installed before that date, they don't necessarily have to hit those exact 9.5-inch numbers for rise and tread.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So what's the rule then?
OSHA says they're considered compliant if they meet the dimensions listed in a specific table, table D1 in the standard, or if the combination of their actual rise and tread depth still results in an angle between 30 and 50 degrees.
So there's an alternative path for older stairs as long as the angle is right.
Essentially, yes. Keeps things practical for existing structures.
We probably don't have time to get deep into the weeds on spiral, ship, and alternating tread stairs today.
No, they each have their own detailed specs.
But any quick takeaways for those? Just things listeners should be aware of.
Sure. Briefly, spiral stairs have rules on minimum width, max riser height, minimum headroom, and even where you measure the tread depth since it varies.
Right, because they're wedge-shaped.
Exactly. Ship stairs, think steep stairs, almost like a ladder, have a specific angle range, usually open risers, and minimum tread dimensions.
Often find those on mezzanines or equipment access.
Right. And alternating tread stairs, the ones where you step on alternating sides, also have angle limits, specific distances between handrails, and minimum tread sizes. The main thing for you, the listener, is knowing these aren't standard, and they come with very specific rules for when and how they can be used safely.
Okay, good overview. Let's shift gears to our last area. Confined spaces, specifically the definition.
Always a hot topic. It can be confusing.
Yeah, and we've got another interesting OSHA letter here. This one's about large furnaces used for heating or aging products. It really sheds some light on entry and exit.
Right. This came from a company, Green Manufacturing Solutions. They have these big furnaces, different sizes, like 8 by 8 by 8 feet, up to maybe 18 by 18 by 18.
Big.
Yeah. Big enough to enter. Access is through remote control doors, like garage doors.
Okay, remotely operated. That sounds important.
It is. And the floor inside the hearth is raised. It's 22 to 29 inches higher than the main building floor.
So you have to step up to get in.
Exactly. Which led to their first question for OSHA.
Which was?
Basically, do these furnaces count as confined spaces just because you have to step up that high to get in and out?
Seems like a fair question. What did OSHA say?
Their answer was pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yes, based on what you've told us, they most likely do meet the definition.
Really? Just because of the step?
Well, 2 reasons combined. First, OSHA said stepping up 22 to 29 inches is significant. They even referenced the standard stair requirement, 9.5 inches per step.
Ah, so it's more than one standard step.
Right, requires more effort than just walking in. So that step can be considered a limited or restricted means of entry or exit.
Okay, that makes sense. What was the second reason?
The remote control doors. Because they're not operated from inside, an employee inside the furnace can't just open the door and leave whenever they want.
They're dependent on someone outside.
Correct. Which further restricts their means of egress. So even if it feels open once you're inside, getting in and out isn't straightforward. That step up is a factor you need to weigh in your risk assessment.
That's a key insight. It's not just about squeezing through a small hole. A significant step height matters. Did they ask about a specific threshold, like a magic number?
They did. They asked if there was a hard number, say 30 inches, where OSHA would just automatically say, yep, that's limited egress.
Did OSHA give one?
No, they stayed away from setting a rigid number like that.
Why not? Wouldn't that be easier?
Maybe seem easier, but OSHA's approach is more nuanced. They reiterated that if you need special means to get in or out, like bring you over a ladder or temporary steps, that itself strongly suggests it's a limited or restricted means of egress, and likely a confined space. They doubled down on the idea that needing more than one normal step over that 9.5 inches could be considered limited or restricted. It allows for judging the specific situation.
So context matters more than just a tape measure reading.
Exactly. What about needing something simple, like a small stool to step on? Was that asked?
It was. That was their third question.
And OSHA's response?
Pretty consistent. They said the very fact that you need an access stool likely indicates a limited or restricted means of entry or exit.
Because normal access isn't sufficient.
Right. It implies the standard way of just walking isn't quite enough.
So let's just quickly recap the definition based on this furnace example. What are those core criteria again?
Okay, this letter really highlights the 3 pillars. 1, it has to be large enough for someone to bodily enter and do work.
Check. These furnaces were plenty big.
2, it has to have limited or restricted means for entry or exit.
Check. The step-up height and the remote doors both pointed to that.
And 3, it's not designed for continuous employee occupancy.
Check. It's a furnace, not an office. So yeah, hitting all 3 makes it a confined space.
But we need to remember, this is OSHA interpreting a very specific scenario, right?
Absolutely crucial point for everyone listening, especially safety pros. OSHA always emphasizes these letters are interpretations based only on the facts presented in the inquiry.
They're not new regulations.
Correct. Your legal obligations come from the actual statutes, the standards, the regulations themselves. These letters are guidance, valuable guidance on how OSHA might apply those rules in practice.
But not the final word in every single situation.
Exactly. Use them as insight, not as the sole basis for your program.
Okay, this has been really informative. We've covered a lot of ground, from ladder extensions to stair dimensions to what makes a space confined. Let's just quickly summarize the main takeaways.
Sure. So first, that walk-through ladder railing system, if it's securely attached, OSHA says it can meet the 3-foot extension rule in construction. Big takeaway there. Second, stairways. Lots of specifics on dimensions, headroom, riser height, tread depth, width, landings, and strength. Uniformity is key.
And watch out for those different rules based on installation dates for door platforms.
Good point. And third, confined spaces. The definition hinges heavily on ease of entry and exit. Even things that seem minor, like a 2-foot step up or needing a stool, can trigger the limited or restricted criteria.
Understanding that interpretation on ladder add-ons helps you evaluate new equipment. Knowing the stair rules is fundamental for facility safety.
And realizing that subtle access issues can classify a space as confined is critical for proper hazard assessment and permit procedures if needed.
Absolutely. So for all you safety professionals, risk managers listening in, getting these interpretations right is just vital for keeping people safe and, staying compliant.
Definitely think about how these examples might apply in your own workplace. Walk around, look at your ladders, your stairs, spaces people enter infrequently.
And as always, this deep dive is great, but
it's no substitute for reading the full OSHA standards yourself. Please consult the actual text for the complete picture.
Couldn't agree more. So we'll leave you with the final thought to chew on.
How might those seemingly small decisions, choosing one type of ladder accessory over another, the exact height of a work platform, the way a door operates, how might those choices ripple outwards?
Affecting not just compliance on paper, but the real-world safety, the ease of access and egress for your employees every single day.
Something to think about. Until our next deep dive.
Stay safe out there.